Woo! Woo! Got to mute at the beginning of the music for the evil overlord.
Chris Duel show.
Facebook.
You know
Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome on a Football Friday. That's right. We said Football Friday on March 4th because every day is football day on this show as God intended. We love football as we should. We love other sports. We're going to even talk some racing today. NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar. Tracksmack Dawn is going to join us at 8:05. You may know her as Dawn Hall. You may have known her as Dawn Murphy in a previous pre-marriage incarnation. Been doing a lot of radio work over the years. Actually, she at one time produced the Mike Taylor Show, and she at one time produced my show on multiple radio stations in multiple buildings. But she is a racing freak, and more now, NASCAR, Formula One, reacting to Russia and what's going on with Russia's invasion and bombing of Ukraine. So lots to talk about there. Dawn is also up in the Dallas area. She's a huge Cowboys fan, so we'll certainly talk Dallas Cowboys with her as well. Speaking of the Cowboys and football, Paul Alexander, he is our football guru. We climb into the Himalayas of football. We climb the mountains to sit at his feet as he imparts football enlightenment upon us and gives us each a football mantra to chant over the weekend. Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, what is up on a Friday?
Good morning, sir. We made it. We did it. I didn't know if I'd make it through the week after my Vegas adventure. Monday was a little rough, but I'm here. I'm excited. And I'm ready to talk some NASCAR, which is not something that often comes out of my mouth. But as we know here in Central Texas, NASCAR is coming back to Austin for the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix this month. And it's exciting because they race at COTA, and COTA is not your typical oval circle track. So it's completely new and exciting adventure. I'm so glad they're coming back for a second year, and hopefully it'll be something that they can continue doing it. That's going to be a huge weekend. Not only do we have South by starting, I believe, next weekend, but after that finishes up, we have NASCAR and Dell Match Play all at the same time. It's going to be huge.
My goodness. Well, and it's interesting, Shannon, you mentioned NASCAR racing at COTA, which is odd. And then just, a number of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, really, NASCAR raced in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which I've attended many USC games there over the years. They've held a couple of Olympics there over the years, but certainly that building, which has been around since at least 1932, the 32 Olympics, that building is obviously not made for racing. And in fact, we talked about it. I think max speed was something like 69, 70 miles an hour when these cars on a NASCAR track go about 200 plus miles an hour. So I will say this, and again, like you, I'm not a huge NASCAR expert. That's why we bring on Tracksmack Dawn, because she is. But I give them credit and kudos for experimenting and innovating. And I just think, unless, and the NFL does as well. I was about to say, because the NFL is king, they don't have to, but they do as well. So I think if you're any sport looking for new fans and trying to do what you do better, to try new things and innovate is probably a really good idea.
Oh, yeah. Especially, look where baseball is right now. NASCAR actively doing what they can to bring in that next generation of fans, as well as to keep the fans that they've already gotten, because it is pretty much a niche sport, right? People tend to think it's more of a Midwest thing, so them going out to California and doing something like that, and then coming back to Texas, I mean, the people of NASCAR said they had a great time last year. It was a fantastic turnout, so I can only imagine what it's going to look like this go around.
So we'll talk about all that stuff. And again, there's many tiers of racing from NASCAR to Formula One to IndyCar, the reaction to Russia, and everything going on there. Heard a really interesting story overnight. I was doing the Spurs game last night, Shannon, and oh, by the way, not the result we were looking for. Sacramento, who is not that great of a team at all, came into San Antonio, beat the Spurs last night, 115 to 112. Sacramento wins the series 2-1, which means Sacramento started the night 2 games behind the Spurs. Now they're 1 game behind the Spurs. If those 2 teams finish for a tie for the number 10 slot, Sacramento wins the tiebreaker. The Spurs led through a lot of that game. Spurs were leading late in the game. Spurs had chances to win and just did not get it done. And we'll get into that. But one of the, because it affects our lives and because it intersects the world of sports, Shannon, now and then we talk about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia's invasion and bombing of Ukraine. So last night I'm doing the Spurs game, and you may have seen these, and Jeremy Kolok, will meet him in a moment on the air. I'm seeing these reports. Oh, now Russia is bombing a nuclear power plant. They're bombing the largest nuclear power plant, not only in Ukraine, but in Europe. And it was on fire last night, which amazes me. And latest reports from our scientists, and apparently there's no radiation leak or anything. Radiation levels haven't risen yet, but there is a potential for a Chernobyl-like disaster. What I don't understand about that, Shannon, Ukraine is on the border of Russia. If you're going to bomb a nuclear power plant, there could be a nuclear cloud causing radiation to move into the atmosphere and maybe blow into your country. It's just crazy. War is crazy. If you're going to get into an endeavor to kill a whole lot of people, and a whole lot of people on your side wind up getting killed as well, it's always a crazy prospect. But even that act in and of itself, I just found crazy bizarre from a strategic standpoint coming from the Russian army.
You know what, Chris? At 5 o'clock every evening, I consider turning on the news and being somewhat of an adult. But instead, I get a glass of night wine and turn on bad reality television. And as I hear you talking this morning, I think, you know what? For my mental health, I think I made the right choice. Because I can only take so much news like that. And that it's everywhere right now.
Yeah. There was a great comedian, and he played a lot in Austin. And I'm sure Austin and San Antonio listeners, many will remember his name. His name was Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks was one of my favorite comedians and will always be one of my favorite comedians ever. He died way too young of pancreatic cancer, but his home comedy club was the Laugh Stop in Austin, which later became the Capital City Comedy Club. And I don't think the doors are open there anymore. But Bill Hicks had a bit, and I can't replicate the bit, but to your point about not watching TV and watching TV news, instead having a glass of wine, he said every time he would turn on CNN, all he would hear was, war, famine, destruction, AIDS, death, war. And then he'd say he would turn off his TV and then open his window, and then he would do like the cricket sounds, chirp, chirp, chirp. It was talking about, Ted Turner, who owned CNN at the time, is just trying to scare the hell out of us. Now, obviously, this war is real and it's awful, but Bill Hicks's bit, part of what he communicated was your life is so much better if you don't engage in a lot of the horrible things that are going on in the world, and you just take a deep breath and open your window and listen to the crickets, or in your case, have a glass of wine. I mean, there's something to be said for it. I can totally relate to it. Let us say good morning to the hardest working man in radio, the pride of Oklahoma State University, and he was running the board and engineering last night as the UTSA Roadrunners lost to a very good North Texas basketball team last night. So for our San Antonio area peeps, Spurs lose, UTSA Roadrunners lose. Jeremy Kolok, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. As you know, in my little closet here or whatever, I have many screens in front of me. So I was here last night, and there was a lot going on. You had the UTSA game, and they were keeping it close. It was a good effort by the Roadrunners. You had the Spurs game, and then I agree completely with the sentiment y'all are sharing that your life is probably much more enjoyable if you do not pay attention to politics and the news and whatnot. But for whatever reason, I'm not wired that way. Like I have to be in the know. Like I
Yeah.
have to be. It's almost like an addiction to the breaking news. Like I'd have to just keep seeing it. So I had a lot going on my screens here, and I figured I like to witness history, so I was watching a live stream of the power plant, and I
Oh,
just figured, I should watch a if I have the opportunity, I should watch a direct violation of the Geneva Conventions.
mm.
And then as I'm finishing that UTSA game, I'm looking up, I have, Bally Sports Southwest up on my screen, and the Spurs are making a comeback in this game, like a monstrous comeback, like a
Mhm.
17-2, 17-4 run or something like that. You would know better than I. And I'm like, "You know what? I think I'm gonna witness Greg Popovich get that game finally, get that win here finally, and I'm gonna be able to listen to the great Bill Schoning's 2000s consecutive broadcast on the way home." And, it just didn't all come together, as you mentioned. It was a tough loss to the Kings.
You were absolutely right. I'm looking at my notes, and midway fourth quarter, Spurs were on a 17-3 run. They were way down at one point in the fourth quarter. They go on a 17-3 run, tie it up at 91-91. Spurs actually led 103-102 with a little over 2 minutes to play, and let it get away ultimately 115-112. But I'm like you, Jeremy. I'm a news junkie, and I always have been. I remember, even when I lived in Los Angeles, and even when I didn't, at the height of news talk radio, which I wound up working in for many years. When my watch would go off at the top of the hour, my watch would go tick tick, and I go, oh no, top of the. I'd have to punch out of like rock and roll radio into news talk radio so I could see what the big breaking stories were at the top of each hour. So yeah, it's a conscious decision if you want to engage in it or not. And sometimes even when you try not to engage in what's going on in the world, you can't avoid it. And that's why so often the last couple of weeks, there's been the intersection of that war in Ukraine and sports. And we'll get into it once again with Dawn Hall, how it affects Formula One and NASCAR. In fact, Shannon, it is our poll question today. It's just because it is a big story and more now. The most recent, Shannon, that I saw yesterday at this time, the Paralympics are getting underway in China, I believe Beijing. And as of yesterday, the Paralympics said Russian and Belarusian athletes can participate in the Paralympics, but they just have to participate under another flag or banner than Russia and Belarus. Now, Belarus, an ally of Russia, and they have said we're thinking about getting into this war as well. In fact, I haven't checked the latest updates. Maybe they already are, for that matter. And less than 24 hours later, Shannon, the Paralympics reverses its position, does a 180 and says, nope, no Russian athletes, no athletes from Belarus can participate in the Paralympics, which if you think about that, Shannon, they're starting. So I got to believe maybe some of those athletes were already A, in place in China, or B, en route to China. And as we've said, and I agree, that's sucks for those athletes. But the more anything that gets more attention of the Russian people in the global community about how wrong this war is, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, poll question, Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone on Twitter. Should Russian athletes be banned from all sports competing as long as Russia wages war on Ukraine? Currently split vote here, Chris. 50% saying yes and 50% saying niet, which I'm assuming is no in Russian. And if you want to speak your mind on it, if you want to tell us why you are voting yes or no, feel free to use the all-new TalkBack app on the iHeartRadio app. When you're listening to Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone, you'll notice there is now a little microphone. You just hit that, say whatever you want within 30 seconds, and it instantly comes to our inbox so we can hear from you directly. And we may even play you on the air. So give that a shot. It's called TalkBack. It's really cool. And again, we've got a little how-to tutorial on our social medias as well. If that wasn't good enough for you, if hitting the microphone is too much to ask and you need a visual presentation, I've got that for you.
Yes, and again, one of the cool things about that talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app is, a lot of people are busy in the morning and they have something to say to us and to all of our listeners, because we will play it on the air if we can, and we often will, and we did yesterday. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame left us one of those messages yesterday. We played it. We'll play yours. But if you're busy in the morning and you just, think, well, I don't want to call a radio station, although you should, we invite you to call us at 800-707-9760. We love your calls. But if you just want to, I'm in a hurry, I got to get to work, I'm at a red light, this is so quick. And again, Shannon has a tutorial at our websites and across the social media. Man, you just, click on your phone, punch, I guess you press iHeartRadio app. And then there it is. There's the microphone button. You press that, you talk, you send it, we get it. So it's quick, it's easy. You can do it from just about anywhere. I think you could do it from everywhere, unless it's, there's a restricted area and you can't talk. So yeah, you could do it from a shower. Might get your smartphone wet. That might not be a good idea. All right, coming up, we have your high five play of the day. So much going on in the world of sports. You have got to hear what Charles Barkley said last night about the Los Angeles Lakers and his new position on the Lakers, and he is ordering the rest of his TNT cohorts to comply with it. Charles Barkley has had enough of the Lakers. Oh, by the way, those Lakers coming into San Antonio to play the Spurs on Monday night. That should be interesting. Coach A, Paul Alexander at 7:05. Tracksmack Dawn Hall on all things racing and Cowboys at 8:05. Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays just after 7:30. High five play of the day is next. She is her high saltiness, Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok making the show go till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, Tracy Bogert, I agree with that comment about Putin. Let me respond to something here. Well, and he's squawking about his nuclear arsenal, and there are people now concerned, saying, hey, if you corner him too much, and he's concerned that Russia might be on the verge of economic collapse, does he use his nuclear arsenal? So that is something to be concerned about. Let me see who's in here, and then I'm going to go get some coffee. The people I see, welcome in. Tracy Bogert with the Babe Ruth info. I'll see if I can add that to sports history this morning. Steve Duraco, Sam Tobias, Hector Gomez, Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot 420, Luisa Alanis, Anthony Del Toro, Jesse Bratton, James Pellman. I think I said Jason Paniagua, John Williams. James Allen is in here. Look at that. I was just talking about James Allen. Wes Perkins. Good morning, James, from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tracy Bogert. Jackson Jack. Jackson spamming us on some herbal treatment. What's going on there, Jackson? John Williams. All right. Interesting place to spam us on herbal treatments, but hey, man, it's commerce. I get it. Okay. I need coffee. Pretty badly. Where's my coffee materials? Woo! Woo! I got coffee. Thank God. This bud's for you. All right, I am going to heat my coffee, or is it hot enough? I can make that work for another segment. This keeps it warm. Cody from HEB. Which reminds me, it's similar in sound. Excuse me. Watching a movie on Apple TV Plus called Coda, C-O-D-A. It's pretty good. It's real good. It's one of the stars is Marlee Matlin. And it's about a family, and the mother and father and one of the sons are deaf. And there's a girl in the family who is not deaf. She's the only one of the four. Her parents are deaf, and her brother is. And Marlee Matlin plays her mom. And she has a gift for singing. And so she's discovering that gift and developing that gift. And I'm about halfway through the movie. My understanding, it looks like she's going to have to make a choice. Does she stay with her family because she's very, very vital to her family, or does she pursue this singing career with this amazing gift that she has? It's a pretty good movie. I'm also watching a series on Apple TV Plus called Severance, which is quite good. It starts slowly. You got a new one drops today and tonight. Severance starts slowly, but it's good. It's directed by Ben Stiller, but it's unlike any Ben Stiller thing you've seen before. It's like dystopian, futuristic yet not. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Let's see here. Let's see. Tracy Bogart says it's hard to do anything in Ukraine when the former Orange president is placating and complimenting Putin on how great a leader he is. Yeah. And it's interesting, Tracy. The vast majority of the Republican Party, they support Trump on a lot of what he says. The vast majority of them are not supporting him on this one, which is interesting. It's like the first issue that you've seen kind of this much of a break between he and the vast majority of the party. John Williams asked Dawn how she is doing on her diet. She is looking awesome. John, I love you. A couple of things that I don't ask a woman about her diet. If she wants to volunteer that information, she may. And I know she's posting it on social media. So as a gentleman, I don't ask a woman about her diet. I don't ask a woman her age. And if you ever see a woman and you think she's pregnant, never, ever, 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 no matter how sure you are that you think she's pregnant, never, ever, ever say, "Are you pregnant?" No, because if that goes wrong, that goes way wrong. You don't want to do that. Well, I did see that, Jason. You're right. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty was outstanding by Ben Stiller as well. Very good point. Wes Perkins is 9 years pregnant. Thank you. I don't know how women go through the whole pregnancy thing. I just, my God, what you have to go through, and certainly, the most intense thing ever, childbirth. I can't even imagine. It's just, my goodness. I have a whole lot of respect, but if there is such a thing as reincarnation, that is something I do not want to do. I would love to just take a pass on that. Would rather not. Wow, James Allen. Okay, I'm just noticing we may have another message from James Allen. We might have to give James Allen some kind of an award for his expert use of the talkback function on the iHeartRadio app. Woo! Let me just check. Did Shannon send you that audio yet of from the talkback from the app? She's doing it at some point. She might not have done it yet. Okay, because if you had it, I was thinking maybe I'd throw to it this segment, but we'll get to it. No biggie. And again, so did you put the two Charles Barkleys together? We may get to that here, maybe not, because I know we got Paul at 7:05, then Shakedown History, etc. at 7:30, then Dawn. So if we don't get to it here, we probably won't get to it till 8:35, but just be ready on that just in case. Thanks. Woo! Oh, so my car died the other day. 2 days after this show, not yesterday, but the day before. I'm driving home. I'm on Loop 410. I'm exiting at Nacogdoches. And all of a sudden I'm realizing my car is not accelerating. I'm trying to, in fact, my car is decelerating. In fact, my car has no power. Luckily, it didn't happen right on. It happened right as I was exiting. And so I take it into a garage, and I get a call yesterday after the show, and the guy goes, "I got good news and bad news." I go, "Okay, lay it on me." He goes, "The bad news, you need a whole new engine." Oh, God. And then he goes, "The good news, there was a recall. So apparently the dealership is going to just do it." We'll see. Kevin Monk, welcome in. Woo, woo.
It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty.
And run. Jeremy Kolok, masterful with his musical stylings this morning and every morning. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. The latest participant to jump into the live video feed is Kevin Monk. Good morning, Kevin. What is happening? Lots of people joining us from all over Texas and around the world on the live video feed. Speaking of around the world, and as I think about it, because I saw social media, and we'll probably have him in studio next week at some point, the greatest international Spurs fan, Taro Kotani, in San Antonio yesterday. He was at the game, Shannon, as the Spurs lose to the lowly Sacramento Kings. Poor Taro travels around the globe. As we added up, his flight to San Francisco, his long layover in San Francisco, his flight to 21 hours of flying, get to the Spurs game. And he wants to see Pop either tie and or break Don Nelson's record. He could have tied Don Nelson last night at 1335 regular season wins. And Taro came all this way, Shannon, and the Spurs lost.
So I believe Taro said he would be here until the 12th. And if that is
that right?
If
Okay.
that is in fact true, it looks like he'll be able to see Spurs Lakers, Spurs Raptors, and Spurs Jazz all at home. Woo. Assuming that's part of his plan. So hopefully that was just a fluke last night, and he'll get to have some more enjoyable experiences walking out of the AT&T Center following a Spurs game.
Yeah, and we love Taro. He is one of the coolest guys ever, and just it all goes back, and this just shows you the power of connection. Many, many, many years ago, when Taro was a kid, he's got photos. Sean Elliott on a global basketball tour went to Japan, and Sean Elliott made an appearance in Tokyo. And there's a photo of Sean then playing with the Spurs in a gym with, young, tiny, because he was a kid, Taro Kotani. And that's one of the reasons he also fell in love with David Robinson originally back in the day. Taro became a Spurs fan, and man, you fly in from Tokyo 17 times. And it would have been more if it weren't for the pandemic. When the pandemic hit in 2020, he was ready to make that 17th trip. So this was a trip that was delayed about 2 years for Taro. So anyway, we'll talk more Spurs a little bit later. Just programming notes. Paul Alexander, love talking football and more with Paul, less than a half hour away at the top of the hour. We'll talk racing, NASCAR at COTA, Formula One, IndyCar, and how racing is reacting to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. All of that with Tracksmack Dawn Hall just after 8 o'clock. She's also a great Cowboys fan and analyst as well. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and a reminder, and we'll play some audio coming up. The iHeartRadio app, the free iHeartRadio app, we've been telling you ever want to talk to us instantly, you go to the iHeartRadio app, go to Ticket 760 and or AM 1300 The Zone, where you can listen to us crystal clear on the iHeartRadio app. Very bottom of your smartphone is a microphone. You just press it, you record your message, you send it to us, we get it instantly, and we quite frequently will just play it on, unless you're on a expletive-laden tirade that is not suitable for FCC ears, we'll probably play it on the air. So do that and or call us 800-707-9760. It is time for the high five play of the day. We do it every morning at this time. We look around the sports world, and sometimes we go outside the sports world, but I'd say most of the time we're a sports talk show. So we look around the sports world and we go, hey man, that's cool. That deserves a high five. And you're about to get one of those right now. High five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. And among the 3 of us, nobody knows more about High Five than Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Chris, it is a fantastic establishment. There's so many areas of entertainment to choose from here in Austin, but you get it all in one spot when you go to a High Five, one on Lakeway, one on Anderson Lane. From great food, great beverages. They've got new cocktails for the new year of 2022. And they've got plenty of entertainment for young and old. Bowling, you can use bumpers if you want. Don't have to. I like them. That's just my personal preference. Axe throwing, of course. And, of course, they've always got a safety instructor there to make sure that you and other participants are throwing appropriately, as well as that Topgolf simulator where, I mean, I need one of those in my house. Don't have room for it, but I'd love to because zombie dodgeball, football, soccer, baseball, of course, golf. You can play on a number of courses from the PGA, as well as your typical Topgolf setup. So lots of fun at High Five. Make sure you go check it out, grab a drink, enjoy some games, and watch whatever games are on TV, because there are no shortages of TVs at any of those locations. Chris, the Combine is going on right now in Indy, and everyone gets obsessed about how many pounds someone is benching, how fast their 40 time is, how long their hands measure, what they weigh on the scale, how tall they really are. We don't often see what happens in between those moments with the players, but in a video caught by a stranger, they saw Mr. Malik Williams, a quarterback who is currently at the Combine. He is most recently out of Liberty College, but he did spend some time at Auburn before making the transfer. He's 22 years old. He's at the Combine in Indy, and he was walking on the streets, and someone caught a video of him with an act of kindness. You know, so often people take videos of celebrities or athletes when they're doing something wrong because they want that clickbait. They want to put them on blast. They want to get the recognition for them and much less for the star, but are using the star to catapult them into a little bit of light. And it's not always a great look for the athlete or the celebrity, and it becomes a conflicting story. Well, this time around, someone noticed someone of that stature, in this case, Malik Willis, acting in kindness to someone who was on hard times. It's a little hard to tell from the video, but he appears to be reaching into his bag, which is filled with combine swag that all of these athletes get when they go to the combine, and is giving some of the clothing to this person who was out on the street experiencing hard times. There are, of course, the skeptics on Twitter who are saying, this is a setup. There's no way this is real, folks. And it's great to see that this 22-year-old who could become drafted, especially even a video like this, that to me says this is a guy that I want on my team because he gets it, right? So many of these guys are going to get big time checks and they may turn into completely different people. But when I see something like this, you see a well-grounded person and human being in Malik Willis. That's a guy you want on your team. That's a guy who I think will not change the second he makes an extra dime from a potential contract with the NFL. So a high five to Malik for acting in kindness when no one's watching. Unfortunately, that's not something we always get. If there's not a camera around, some people are pretty two-faced, but not this guy. Congratulations. And I'm sure what your act of kindness yesterday meant the world to that person who seemed to be in need of some new clothing, and you offered to help out.
Yeah, a few things occur to me here, and you allude to it. You know, some people act differently when there's not a camera around. You know, there's that old question, you know, how do you behave when nobody's watching? And you look at the camera angle, and you and I have seen it, Shannon, and it's from a distance. It's like somebody from their phone or their camera, they zoomed in across a street. It's not a great angle, but they zoomed in. And you're seeing, as you described, Malik Willis, a quarterback at the combine from Liberty, previously at Auburn, you know, kneeling down to a person on the street in the month of March. It's cold in Indianapolis, and he's reaching into his bag to give clothing to a homeless person. Totally agree with you. That's the kind of guy I want on my team. That's the kind of man or woman I want in my organization, whatever I do in life. That's leadership. That's an example. That's humanity. But at the same time, Shannon, and you alluded to this as well, and I looked at this on Twitter, and we live in such a cynical age. Yeah, there were some people, as you said, say, oh, that's totally staged. Ew, that's the guy. Why in God's name? First of all, any of us with any experience, and most of us have it, looking at videos over the years on social media, just the angle from this was not staged. And why in God's name would Malik Willis at the combine stage something like this? If everything you learn about him and you go back and check his background, you know, I'm looking at his Twitter page, and one of the things he says on his Twitter bio is "Glory to God" with praying hands. If you're cynical enough to believe that a young man who went to Liberty University, which, by the way, while there's been some disagreement with some of the leadership, Jerry Falwell has some issues. The president, the guy who inherited it from his dad, the senior Jerry Falwell, Liberty University has some issues as far as its administration. But a lot of students go there because it is a faith-based institution. So if you're going to assume that a guy who says glory to God with praying hands as a major part of his Twitter bio is staging a video to help a homeless person on the streets of cold Indianapolis on March 3rd, I think you're quite cynical. Mm-hmm. But Shannon, I want to, this is what I love about sports. I was not aware of Malik Willis, Shannon, until yesterday. Yep. I saw this video and I go, man, that's cool. I like that guy. Then, like you, I Googled him. I learned more about him. And this is what's cool about it. You know, now I got a guy to follow at the combine and in the draft. And if you get invited to the combine, good chance you're going to get drafted. You may not. Malik Willis, obviously not a household name like Correct. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback coming out a year ago. But again, one of the fun things about sports, when you discover a guy like Malik Willis and you find out, A, he's really talented because he got invited to the combine, he's a quarterback, and B, he's got heart and a soul and humanity and caring. I'm going to watch him now, and on draft day, one of the names that I'm going to pay attention to, where does Malik Willis land? And if nobody drafts him, then that night they usually sign free agents across the league. It would be very, very cool. I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan. I wouldn't mind seeing Malik Willis as part of that Cowboy quarterback room someday.
Yeah. I think he raised his draft stock. He's still in Indy, still part of the combine, just not in a way that I think a lot of people would have expected. And, because he's not a household name, because he wasn't a guy who was up for all of the awards that we're familiar with during the college football season, he may not get drafted, or he may get drafted and be a backup and may not have the longest run, or he may turn into a Tom Brady. Who knows? But there's no guarantee in that. And I know, being a college football player, you get clothes like crazy. And then obviously at the combine, they get clothes like crazy. But again, there's no guarantee that he gets drafted to a team and that he then has years and years of success to continue getting free swag. So for him to get free swag at the combine and then turn around and say, this person needs it more than I do, because some people like to hold on to those things as memories or mementos, or from back in my days, years later. For him to do that was really big of him. And yeah, he's definitely a guy that we can root for going forward here in the combine and in the NFL draft.
And again, and this is something we all face, Shannon. And again, what I love about sports, it's life lessons that affect our lives. I mean, we've all been in that situation a lot, and more now as the homeless population grows in this country, where you're walking by a homeless person, and they are either asking you or they're not asking you for help. And, I think most of us, when we can, we help them out. There are times when it's like, I don't have any money on me. And more now in the modern age, I don't carry a lot of cash. So I will say to somebody, I'm sorry, I don't have anything. And, so I know there are some people out there who are much more cynical and will tell a person like this, get a job, which is, you have no idea what this person's going through. And speaking of that, Shannon, and maybe we'll get into it more. I know we're coming up on a break, but we talked about her yesterday, the Stanford soccer captain and prolific athlete for the Stanford women's soccer team, Katie Meyer. As of yesterday, we did not know her cause of death. She was found dead in a residential dorm at Stanford. We now know that what is being reported to have been a suicide. So God love her, 22-year-old Katie Meyer, her family, her friends. It's got to be so tough. But as we said repeatedly yesterday, Shannon, you just don't know what a person's going through. And from the outside looking in, Shannon, so many people must have thought Katie Meyer was on top of the world. And clearly, in her head, in her life, in her mind, she was going through things that were just unbearable to her, apparently.
Yes. We talked about her accomplishments, not only a part of a national championship winning team there at Stanford, but the reason they won. That game went to PKs, and she made the final save for her team as the goalie to seal the deal. So yeah, you're right. It would be easy to look at someone and say they must be on top of the world, especially through the gaze of social media, where we tend to only post the highlights in our lives. Rarely do people post the lowlights when the objective is to get clicks and shares. And so just from the outside perspective, it probably seemed like she was doing just fine. But check on your friends, check on your family.
Coming up, Coach A, Paul Alexander. We will talk all things football with Paul. Also in the 7 o'clock hour, Shannon Salty Shakedown, and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Woo! Good morning, Beth Settle. You are up early at 6:54. Everybody in here is up early this morning. John Williams, check my Facebook Messenger for an image. John, is this going to be a good image? You send me some random stuff, dude. Okay, that's all right. You're on the iHeart app. Way to go, man. John Williams, that's a good image. Thank you for that one. John Williams sent me a screenshot. He's on the iHeartRadio app, and there's the speaker. You got it, man. John Williams, you can leave a message. Odds are we'll play it. Hey, now my Facebook is freaking out. See, John, I clicked on your image and my screen froze. Okay, Paul Alexander coming up. Kevin Monk, welcome in. James Allen in here. I said welcome into everybody a little earlier. Just the new people since then look like Kevin Monk and Beth Settle. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, Paul Alexander coming up. Let me find my Paul Alexander photo. There he is. Now the banner is obscuring his name, so let me lose that banner for right now. Okay. I think I'm getting some more coffee. Yeah, just that story. And, we were up against it when Shannon and I were talking about it. 22 years old, captain of the Stanford soccer team. If she didn't do anything else, you would think that Katie Meyer, for the rest of her life, just given that alumni base, she was a sports hero at Stanford, helped them win a national championship. You would think businesses, alums who went to Stanford would love to hire Katie Meyer on any level, whatever she wants to do. And sadly, it's so tragic, whatever demons she was facing and she was going through, it led her, reportedly to take her own life. And again, I mentioned this yesterday on the show. I heard Paul Alexander say this many years ago, that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem or temporary problems. I know that's a simple statement, but if you think about it, it's true. It's, obviously all factors are much more complex, but my goodness. Well, and there you go, James. I mean, who knows? Yeah. I mean, what led her to that? He's saying she was assaulted by somebody, perhaps. I mean, we don't know, but that's a possibility. And that obviously, I mean, it's horribly tragic no matter what, but obviously that would be even more tragic, or just another level of tragedy, certainly. All right, I'm going to heat up my coffee. I'll be back. All right. Coach Paul Alexander joining us shortly in probably like 3 minutes, actually. Love having Paul. Not only his football knowledge, his insight, his entertainment value. And again, and I'm, Shannon and I kind of walk a fine line at a time like this when, we are dealing with this war in Ukraine. Paul just, as a guy who pays close attention to world events and is very thoughtful, and his perspective, again, I highly recommend his website, radicallyrational.com. He will make you think, and he will deliver a really good perspective on everything, including sports. So we love having him on. Hot coffee. Thank you. Thank you. Today is Walter Pasacreta's birthday. I just saw that on my Facebook. I got to add that to sports birthdays. Walter is 58 years old. So when was he born? Use my calculator. My brain won't work to do that kind of math in my head this morning. Sometimes I could do that, but I just make it simple. 2022 minus 58 equals 1964. Thank God for calculators. So you don't need to know math if you got one of these nearby. Oh, by the way, Tracy Bogert, if you're still here, I just looked down at my sports history page, and you brought up the Babe Ruth sports history story. We got it. It was already. Where is it? Babe Ruth, top of the page, sports history. See, Babe Ruth, Joe Frazier, and the first ESPY Awards. And for sports birthdays, I have got to add Walter Pasacreta. 1964. We have added Walter Pasacreta to the sports birthdays list. Walter originally put on the air at the behest of the late, great gorilla, Andrew Ashwood. Andrew gave me many, many breaks in radio. So I have a special place in my heart for Andrew Ashwood people. And Walter Pasacreta is an Andrew Ashwood person. Thank you, sir. Here we go. Woo! Woo! 7 o'clock hour. Let's do this thing. I believe we're going to do this thing. I really think we're going to do this thing. There it comes. There's that music. I mute for the evil overlords of Facebook for just a moment.
This
Forgive us, Facebook. We know not what we do. You are our overlords. You are the Putins of the internet.
To the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. It's a football Friday. That's right. I said it on March 4th. It's a football Friday because we declare every Friday is a football Friday because football season never ends, nor should it. And before long, we'll have the USFL. So it's really never going to end. But there's always stuff going on in the world of football. And we talk other sports as well. And we just love Fridays to start the 7 o'clock hour with this man. He has done it all in television and in radio, as a reporter, as an anchor, as a host, as a play-by-play guy, as a television executive. You name it, he has done it in the business, and now he does an amazing thing that we highly recommend. He's got a website called radicallyrational.com, and you'll not only get his sports takes, you'll get his life, politics, culture takes that are not only profound, but often highly entertaining. And he's just makes great contributions to this show in so many ways. Coach A, Paul Alexander, how are you doing this morning?
Chris, Shannon, Jeremy, I'm doing well. Hope all of you are as well. Yeah, we made it to a football Friday.
Now, are you cool? And again, I like to check with you because you're our football guru. Are we justified in declaring a Friday in March football Friday? Are you cool with that?
You know, I'm at a point where I believe that pretty much anything that gives us aid and comfort right now is a good idea. And for me, the idea that it's still a football Friday in March, that comforts me. So I'm going to go with it.
Now, I got to ask you, Paul, we know you love all levels of football, dating back to your days as a wide receiver at Lockhart High School. You continue. You do play-by-play. You've done play-by-play on the highest level in the NFL. You've done it recently, high school. You've done college. You've done it all. Are you following the combine, the NFL combine in Indianapolis? How much? And while that's going on, we got a war going on in Ukraine, so you might be a little bit busy looking at other stuff. But how much are you following the NFL combine?
A lot, and it's connected because, like so many people, I've been immersed in and horrified by what's going on in Ukraine. And it's highly disturbing because if these aren't crimes against humanity, what is? And so initially I was thinking I might feel a little bit guilty about watching the combine under these circumstances. And then I thought, no, that's silly. So, Chris, not only did I watch it last night, I watched it until my eyeballs bled.
Well, Paul, let's talk a little combine. The big story coming out of yesterday were those 40 times for the wide receivers. A lot of them posted unofficial times that were outstanding. I mean, records were broken, and turns out not really, that those times weren't even close to the official, about a tenth of a second faster than what they actually ended up being. Is this, I mean, how with technology the way it is these days, how is that even possible? And is this just a way for the NFL to continue to get more pub?
Well, I think what happened, I mean, obviously they do come out with the official electronic time. I think what you have initially is guy runs a 40, and at that point it's hand timed, and you're looking at this and hyping it. And one thing's for sure, by anybody's definition, these guys are fast. And I do think that as a group, this is probably, in fact, I think it certainly is the fastest group of wide receivers that we've ever seen at the combine. You know, and I wonder sometime, and I kind of roll my eyes when 40-yard dash times get inflated. You know, you hear somebody reference a 4.140. You know what a 4.140 is? That's a lie, and it's not human. Okay, that may be a four-legged jaguar or cheetah or something like that, but there ain't no such thing as a 4.140. And sometimes, even at the high school level, I think guys are put at a disadvantage. Their 40 time is posted as something like 4.7, and there's this feeling, well, oh man, I mean, golly, he can't even get out of his own way. Only a 4.7. Hey, you show me somebody that runs a legit 4.7, and I will show you a pretty fast human being. And not only did I think we had the fastest group of wide receivers we've ever had at the combine, as a group, this is the best running set of quarterbacks I think we've seen. Now, there's not for example, a Michael Vick guy out there, but you look at all these big old 220-pound quarterbacks who are running 4.6 and change. That's moving out.
He is Coach A, Paul Alexander. At the moment, we're talking about the NFL Combine. And Paul, as I hear you and Shannon discuss the wide receivers, the fastest group of wide receivers ever to participate in the NFL Combine. I've been hearing this since I was a kid in the 70s, Paul, following the NFL. It's like every year they say the guys coming into the NFL are bigger, faster, stronger than ever before. I heard that in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, throughout this century. How is it possible? And you pay a lot of attention to fitness and physiology, and you've coached on the high school level. How does this keep happening? How is it possible that seemingly every year, and at least seemingly every generation, the next group of athletes are bigger, faster, and stronger in the NFL?
Better training, better coaching, better nutrition. And in some cases, as it relates to the combine, it's kind of training to the test. How we've got this controversy in education about teaching to the test. I think one of the things we're seeing with these speed times is these guys are now clearly doing some real track training. And what I'm seeing is their technique is getting better, particularly their starts are getting better. And they're learning to relax, which enables you not to decelerate so much. So part of it is I think guys are getting better athletically in everything, but part of this is just pure technique. And it was interesting. We're talking about the amazing 40 times we saw, but did you see how explosive, particularly those wide receivers were in things like the vertical jump and the broad jump? And a lot of that is technique. It's training to the combine.
Well, something that isn't technique and that no athlete can really change or has control over is their hand size. And prior to those 40 times yesterday, Kenny Pickett was trending for his hand size, a quarterback out of Pitt. 8.5 inches is what they came down to. If you searched him on Twitter, there were tons of memes. The most popular one being that little angry Arthur with the teeny tiny Arthur hand of people saying this is Kenny Pickett, seeing people talk about his tiny hands. Most notably, last go around, Joe Burrow. He had tiny hands with those 9-inch hands compared to Kenny Pickett's 8.5-inch hands. We've seen what Joe Burrow in 2 years in the NFL can do. What do you think about Kenny Pickett's hand size at 8.5 inches?
Well, first of all, I enjoyed watching Kenny Pickett play last season as much as I did any quarterback in college football. I just like the way the guy handles his business. I think technically he's very sound. One thing that means a lot to me, it's clear what a leader he is. His teammates just loved him. And you could tell last night that he was genuinely ticked off about this hand size thing. Now, I got to be objective about this. I think there's a tendency sometime to make too big a deal out of it, but it's not nothing. It really isn't. In wet weather, or especially cold weather, it really does make it difficult to grip the football. And also what it does is it makes you much more prone to fumbling, makes you much more prone to strip sacks, for example. So, I don't think that you really, really drop him or diminish his draft value a great deal because of this, but you can't ignore it either. And to a certain degree, it's going to matter where he plays. Now, I know he played in some cold weather at Pittsburgh, but again, I think it's unfortunate that he's going through this. It was clear that it's ticking him off. But if you're looking for a first-round quarterback, that has to be a consideration because it is not completely insignificant.
Coach A, Paul Alexander, talking football with us. And Paul, especially when it relates to quarterbacks in these combines and as we approach the NFL draft, it's so fascinating because it's such a crapshoot. And here we are talking about Kenny Pickett's the size of his hands, and famously, you go back and you look at the combine footage of Tom Brady, and you look at that photo of him at the combine not wearing a shirt, and the dude does not look like a football player and does not look like an NFL quarterback, certainly that we're used to. And I remember, and you will as well, many, many years ago when, we were coming out of the combines and, there was a debate who should be the number 1 overall draft pick. Should it be Peyton Manning out of Tennessee or Ryan Leaf out of Washington State? And I mean, it was, for a lot of people, it was a coin toss, and it just goes to show you just never know how much, and you study the NFL from all angles as much or more than anybody I know. How much weight do we put into the combine and what we learn here versus their performance in college versus an interview with them? And I've heard as well they're doing away with the Wonderlic test. What are the best ways to figure out when you're going to pull the trigger on draft day who's the right quarterback that might have an opportunity to make a huge impact in the NFL?
Well, I think, first of all, as you indicated, who that guy is on tape. Okay, so believe that. And also, I would put a lot of stock in the interviews. And apparently, there have been a couple of quarterbacks that have just knocked it out of the park in the interviews, including Malik Willis from Liberty. As for the combine, I think what I would be looking for is just a willingness to compete. I think particularly with quarterbacks, it's really not fair to drop a guy's draft stock based on what he does at the combine, because you're working with receivers that you've never worked with before. And it's funny, in watching the receivers last night, guys, I saw all this speed, but I didn't see a lot of great route runners. Okay, they did this thing where everybody was running a post corner, and some of those were embarrassingly bad. So that figures into a quarterback's performance as well, because you're throwing according to a landmark on that route. So you got to watch that. But I think you look at willingness to compete. I think you look at the guy's demeanor and how he handles himself. Talking about quarterbacks I enjoyed watching last year. The guy from North Carolina, Sam Howell, I mean, just dead dog competitive. And actually, I like Jack Cohn from Notre Dame as well.
Well, because it's not the biggest name of quarterbacks this go around during the draft, during the combine, it appears the Washington now Commanders have called every single NFL team in the league to ask them about their quarterback situation, if they were willing to part ways and what it might take to do so, as they are looking for the guy to be the leader of the Commanders. They even called the Kansas City Chiefs to ask them about Patrick Mahomes. So a lot of folks now slamming Washington, but asking you now, Paul, can you blame them? If you are desperately in need of a quarterback and there are guys that have already proven themselves, is it worth a call around the league to say, hey, is there anything we can do?
Oh, you think you have to. And I think that's particularly true for the Commanders, because if you look at that roster, I mean, they're pretty much ready to go, except for the questions they have at quarterback. Now, when I say questions, there are times when Taylor Heineke looks really good, hyper competitive, pretty mobile, an absolute howitzer for an arm, but they still think they need an upgrade. And I read the same stuff you did, Shannon. They canvassed about 40 different guys to inquire about their availability. But if I'm Ron Rivera, the future is now, and my team's ready to go, except at quarterback. So I think you have to just do your due diligence and check out everything.
Well, and especially, Paul, as we know, the NFL is a copycat league. And I think you look at what the Los Angeles Rams did, and they said, hey, man, we got a lot of pieces, and so we're willing to give up whatever we have to give up as far as draft picks, in the case of Matthew Stafford, to get the quarterback we think can lead us to the promised land. And I've heard a lot of NFL analysts, Paul, say what you are saying, that the rest of that roster looks ready to go. Certainly, with a really good quarterback, they could win the NFC East. And then you get into the playoffs and anything's possible. And we certainly saw that in one of the most competitive playoff seasons most recently in the National Football League. Do you think, seeing how successful the Rams were, Paul, in making a move at quarterback, in mortgaging the future with draft picks? Do you think that's having an influence on what the Reds, I almost said their name, the Commanders, what the Commanders are thinking right now?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody took a look at that, and, you're going to attempt to do it. Now, that's not to say that you can pull it off, for a variety of different reasons. But I do think there's a feeling around the league that, you can make a splash at quarterback. Now, it is looking more and more by the day like Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers aren't going anywhere. So that kind of changes things a little bit.
Yeah. So, and Jimmy Garoppolo going under the knife. He's maybe not. I mean, if you're a general manager and you want to bank your future on Jimmy Garoppolo, that might be a tough prospect as well. Paul, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. And again, and you talked about it last week. And again, this is why I recommend everybody go to your website, radicallyrational.com. You're not only talking about sports, which you are one of the best to talk sports, but you're talking about what's affecting our lives and what's going on in the world. And Shannon and I think on a sports talk radio show, you kind of walk a fine line. People want to tune in for sports, and sometimes they want to tune in to get away from the bleak news of the day. And as you alluded to at the top of this conversation, Paul, the news is bleak and tragic and frightening coming out of Ukraine, but it does intersect the world of sports, and we're seeing more and more sports organizations saying, you know what, most recently the Paralympics. 24 hours ago, they said Russian athletes and athletes from Belarus can participate, but not under their country's flag. They can participate, but you can't say we're representing Russia or Belarus. Now they've reversed position and said, nah, you know what? No athletes from Russia or Belarus can participate. We've seen this in racing. We've seen this in FIFA. We've seen this in video gaming for sports as well. And Paul, it's our poll question today. Should Russian athletes be banned from all sports competitions as long as Russia is waging war on Ukraine? Where do you fall on this question?
Yes, period. And I understand the argument, well, it's not the athlete's fault. No, it's not. It's not the fault of the people of Russia. They're adamantly opposed to this. But we all have to do what we can do in the realms in which we operate. This is outrageous behavior. These are crimes against humanity. We haven't seen anything like this really maybe ever when you think about it. And the potential for disaster here is absolutely unprecedented. So you got to do whatever you can do, and that includes economic sanctions, and that includes cultural ostracization. I mean, you got to let these people know it's not going to fly. Now, unfortunately, some innocent people like athletes are going to suffer. But this cannot be overlooked, cannot be condoned, and we cannot conduct business as usual. And if you're going to take this outrageous behavior to that level, you're going to have to eat your lunch all by yourself.
Totally agree. I do, Paul. And I think perhaps because, we know Vladimir Putin is telling a certain narrative to his people. And certainly as Russian soldiers have hit the ground in Ukraine, a lot of them are discovering some of the things Vladimir Putin said, like, Russian-speaking Ukrainians are being oppressed in Ukraine, totally bogus. And they're finding that out. And I think one of the byproducts of banning Russian athletes, and as you say, the athletes themselves are innocent. The Russian people who are not participating directly in this war are innocent. But if this helps send a message to the Russian people that, hey, something is very, very wrong at your highest level of government run by Vladimir Putin, then perhaps the message, the groundswell of the people hopefully finds a way to get that message to Vladimir Putin, and hopefully something changes. And Paul, as we wrap up this segment, and again, I want to urge everybody to go to your website, radicallyrational.com. Something that strikes me, and I told Shannon and Jeremy yesterday, I'm doing the Spurs broadcast from the Spurs Net Center last night as Bill Schoening was doing his 2000th consecutive broadcast as voice of the Spurs. Yeah, crazy. And but the story breaks that the Russians are bombing a Ukrainian nuclear power plant that is said to be the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Which, Paul, that blows my mind because obviously Ukraine is on the border of Russia. Did they not learn anything from Chernobyl? Do they not realize that radiation can blow into Mother Russia? So two things. How can and as Putin talks about his nuclear arsenal and seems to be threatening people with that, I guess a two-part question. A, how concerned are you about Putin being just unhinged? And secondly, let people know if they haven't gone yet why they should go to radicallyrational.com this morning, throughout the weekend, and into the future.
Well, first of all, thank you for asking, but clearly Putin is over the edge. This guy has always been pure evil, but now he's also pure crazy. And I would submit this. There's some things we're going to have to take seriously here, unfortunately, because if you will do that, if you will fire armaments at a nuclear power plant, you've pretty well established that there's nothing you won't do. And you talk about the lies and the gaslighting. No sooner had they attacked that power plant than Putin put out a statement, no, the Ukrainians attacked their own power plant. And that was the line. And just like, why are we doing this? Well, we're going to denazify Ukraine. Okay, not only is that ridiculous and absurd and just totally incoherent, it's also offensive at many levels. But this guy, I have my own kind of pseudo-psychological theory about this, that this has been his goal in his whole life, and he's having a midlife to late life crisis here, and he's figured out that it's now or never, and he's always been able to bluff his way through things and threaten his way through things. Now, the irony for him is he thought he could do this because he thought the American people were fractured, and he thought NATO was fractured. I'm hopeful because I want to be optimistic. There's a way this could play out where this could be a pivotal moment for good, because Putin has at least brought us together finally, despite the people that, 10 days ago were saying that Putin was a genius. It's finally brought us together on something, and Putin could not have done anything to unify NATO more than he did. I mean, this is the most unified NATO has ever been. So I'm hoping that some good can come out of this. But my concern is he really is unhinged. And I'm going to say this, and it's blunt, for a number of reasons, we can't take him out. And I'm not saying we should, because an all-out World War III is in nobody's best interest. We can't take him out, but the Russian people can. And he is now ruining the lives of a sufficient number of Russian citizens who actually have built a lot for themselves over the last 30 years. And let's keep in mind that that's not the World War II generation anymore. And they kind of like this freedom thing, and they kind of like this free enterprise thing, and they kind of like having families and jobs, stuff like that. And you know what? Athletes like competing. It will be when he disrupts the lives of enough Russians that they will take care of it.
Outstanding perspective from Coach A, Paul Alexander, and this is why I recommend you daily and regularly go to his website, radicallyrational.com. Paul, you are a truth teller in an era where not everybody is telling the truth. There's a George Orwell line. I'm paraphrasing it, but it says, in a time of great deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And that's part of what you do at radicallyrational.com. Coach A, we love it, man. Sports, your perspective on everything. Thanks for taking the time. Let's talk again next week.
Look forward to it. Thank you as always.
Thanks so much, Coach A. Paul Alexander. Quick break coming up. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, top of the 8 o'clock hour, racing, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, Austin, COTA, Cowboys, and more with Tracksmack Dawn Hall. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Some Eagles on the way out. Very nice. Nice Eagles choice. That was perfect. Let's see. I'm going to do that. Yeah. Louisa says, totally agree with everything Coach A said. Prayers for Ukraine and the world. Here's what troubles me. And Paul alluded to this. Vladimir Putin, we know, was a KGB agent for the Soviet Union in the Cold War. He grew up with America being the enemy, the adversary, the force that must be defeated. That was the doctrine and the dogma that he rose up and grew up in as a KGB agent in the Soviet Union. We have heard, and he has stated, his goals are to bring the band back together, reunite the Soviet Union. And the fact that they would bomb that nuclear power plant right across their border, to me, just demonstrates a dangerous lack of regard for humanity in the face of nuclear catastrophe. So it's something to worry about. Jeremy's mama's favorite band. Jeremy, your mom's favorite band is the Eagles. Is that right? Very cool. Gail, I'm sure you've seen, it was recently on Netflix, but I've got the DVD somewhere. The rockumentary History of the Eagles. It is one of the best rock and roll documentaries I've ever seen. The most troubling thing to me, the way Glenn Fry treated Don Felder, who created the original riff for Hotel California. I think Don Felder really, he was kicked out of the band essentially because Glenn Fry didn't like him at the time. So that's a little troubling, but my goodness, it is said, and I'm sure you know this, the Eagles are the, and I'm a Beatles fan, obviously. The Eagles are the American equivalent of the Beatles as far as the greatest American band ever. And I would agree with that. Eagles are amazing. Although I am really, oh gosh, if you haven't seen it, as an Eagles fan, Gail, it may still be on Netflix. I'm sure it's out there. And if I have to, I'll find the DVD myself because I own it somewhere. I got to find it and get it to Jeremy, and you can just look at it that way. It's so good. It is crazy, crazy good. All right. I think I'm going to make another coffee pill. Well, I better wait. We did go really late there. That was my mistake. Tell Walter Pasacreta we're about to wish him a happy birthday. Coming up, sports history, sports birthdays. Among the birthdays, Walter Pasacreta. Here we go. Woo! Woo!
Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Not only can you find us on Twitter, you can talk to us immediately, right now, at any time on the iHeart Radio app, which is free. You go to AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760 on the iHeart Radio app. You will see a microphone button. You just press that button. You talk to us. You send it. We get it instantly. And we usually put that on the air. Now, that's the new way. That's brand new. That just rolled out this week. You can also dial us up on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. If you want to do that, we love it. You can talk to us the old-fashioned way. You can join us on the live video feed via Facebook Live for either radio station. The Twitter accounts of those radio stations, there's a YouTube portal into the live video feed as well. Joining us just after the top of the hour, Tracksmack Dawn Hall, who is a NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One expert, and a big Dallas Cowboys fan up in Dallas. So we will almost certainly talk Dallas Cowboys with Dawn as well. We are seconds away from Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? March 4th, 1927. Babe Ruth becomes the highest paid player in Major League Baseball history when he signs a 3-year, $70,000 per season contract with the New York Yankees. $70,000 per season in 1927 dollars was pretty good. But somebody, in fact, Tracy Bogart did the math on that. In modern dollars, that would be like $340,000 per year. Still nowhere near what baseball players are being compensated today. But Babe Ruth, my goodness, this was a big day for him back in 1927. On this day in 1968, Smokin' Joe Frazier takes his boxing record to 20-0 and captures the vacant world heavyweight boxing title. He stops Buster Mathis in 11 rounds in a TKO at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The reason the heavyweight boxing title was vacated, they stripped it away from Cassius Clay / Muhammad Ali, who refused to be drafted and serve in the Vietnam War. So they stripped him of his title. He would face Frazier in 1971. Frazier would win that one, but Ali would win 2 other rematches later in both of their careers. On this day in 1993, it was the first ESPY Awards ever. The female athlete of the year was tennis player Monica Seles, and the male athlete of the year in the first ever ESPY Awards was some guy named Michael Jordan. I hear he was pretty good. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1988, College Football Hall of Fame receiver and coach Newt Rockne, maybe one of the greatest names ever in sports. Newt Rockne was born in Voss, Norway, and passed away in 1931. Speaking of great names, born on this day in 1961, boxer Ray Boom Boom Mancini. That wasn't his birth name, but he was later given the nickname Ray Boom Boom Mancini, born in Youngstown, Ohio. He would win the WBA lightweight championship. Born on this day in 1990, I sports hate him, Draymond Green. Just don't get me started. I won't. Draymond Green, born on this day in Saginaw, Michigan in 1990. And finally, friend of the show, longtime radio guy at Ticket 760 in San Antonio, at 1200 WOAI in San Antonio, originally hired by the late, great gorilla, Andrew Ashwood, the pride of New York City, Walter Pasacreta. We got to get him back on the show. Wally was born on this day in 1964, so Wally is 58 years old today. Happy birthday, Walter Pasacreta. A great, entertaining guy. I love Wally. Quick, that's it, your sports birthdays. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your weekend salty shakedown.
Because it is a Friday and a football Friday at that, we will start things off with some football. Chris, part of the offseason, what's so great is I love the videos we get from some of our favorite athletes, of them either being on vacation, completely being away from the game, or whether they're working out in their offseason because they're trying to better their game and get themselves in shape. And one guy who does this, it seems like every offseason, is Jameis Winston. The last couple of off seasons, he has put in the work to make himself better. One season even getting that LASIK eye surgery after throwing 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns in the same season. And we love his content. And it's a little unorthodox, the workouts that he typically does. And as we know, he suffered an injury this last season, so he's working to come back from that. So yesterday, right on cue, we got another infamous Jameis Winston workout video. For those that don't recall some of his other videos, last year was the one in the backyard where there were the target dummies that he was having to go through, working on his footwork, holding that football on as tight as he could. There was an exercise he did with a speed bag that he was moving in and out of while holding a football. And then there was an exercise where he had his helmet on, shorts, t-shirts, and instead of a football, he was holding a stick. And he went through the motions of a start of a play, and then instead of doing a throwing motion, did a hitting motion as if he was playing baseball. All very interesting, and this one sticks right with that theme. He, I guess, working on his core because he was sitting on a giant exercise ball, trying not to fall over, holding onto a football as his trainer or workout partner, whoever it was trying to knock him over and trying to take the ball out of his hands. On top of that, I guess a video from just before he did this workout. He was in a training facility, and a nice young woman at the age of 62 was so excited to see Jameis Winston. This video to me is almost better than the workout video itself. She said, how many 62-year-old women have caught a pass from Jameis Winston? And then Jameis, who was holding a football, tossed it to her. She caught it. She was so happy. She raised her hands up with the football, and they both said one. Chris, I know Jameis has received some flack during his career, but these videos are always great, and he really does seem to put a smile on people's faces with something so simple as a little toss and pitch.
Yeah, and he's a guy, and I know, dating back to his time in college, stealing, what was it, lobster tails or, you're right. There's been some bad Jameis Winston stories, but that was back in college. We've all done stupid things in college. He's a guy I want to see him succeed because he certainly, after that 30 touchdowns and 30 interception performance that ultimately got him run out of Tampa Bay and on came Tom Brady. He's a guy that people disregard and don't think he could deliver the goods in the NFL. I would like to see him do that. He seems like a good guy. I agree. His videos are entertaining. And now, I mean, you even got to believe now Sean Payton, one of the reasons he left New Orleans and the game of football, at least for now, was he didn't believe in Jameis Winston. Sean never said that, but most people assume that. So I enjoy him. I'm glad he's still putting those videos out. I hope he has a good season next year.
I'll never forget him eating the W in the huddle. We're going to keep it with football all day today on the Salty Shakedown. Chris, Evan McPherson became a superstar during the NFL playoffs. He was solid all season for the Bengals. In fact, I mean, he hit 12 field goals that were more than 50-plus yards, setting a new single-season record for that team. He also had 5 game-winning field goals throughout the season, 2 of those being in the playoffs. But with all of the accomplishments and everything he did for that team and how great and solid of a kicker he was, they're a little ashamed of the guy. The special teams coordinator, Darren Simmons, who of course out in Indy right now for the combine, said, that photo, that little short video of Evan McPherson on the sidelines for the halftime performance during the Super Bowl is apparently a sore subject within the Bengals organization. Now, Evan McPherson was the only player that was shown to be there at halftime watching that performance that was so incredible, but it was also long snapper Clark Harris who was on the field as well. Now, Clark avoided the cameras, not sure where he was, but he was able to avoid the cameras, so Bengals not so upset with him, but I guess upset about the message it might have sent that, oh, here's Evan McPherson hanging out during halftime. Now, on the one hand, I get it. You want to be in the team with your locker room. You may not ever get back to the Super Bowl as a player on the field. You're an NFL guy, you've got lots of money, you could probably afford to take it to go in the future and to see all of the future halftime performances as they are live in person. But you are playing in this game, so I understand it from that point. But also, I mean, the guy, I don't think he did any wrong this season. So, I mean, it's not like he went out and missed any kicks after the halftime performance. So, I don't know, calling it a sore subject for the team right now just feels a little weird to feel like you got bigger fish to fry, right? You're trying to get back to the Super Bowl. But, Chris, wanted to know your thoughts on how you feel about Evan McPherson being out there during halftime, watching the performance instead of being in the locker room.
I'm kind of an old school guy, Shannon, as you know, and I'm kind of an old guy, but, I go back to the Landry era Cowboys. So I ask myself, what would Tom Landry think if Mike Clark, his kicker for Super Bowl VI, or Tony Fritsch from that era, during the Super Bowl halftime left the locker room to watch the halftime show? I don't think he'd be happy. And I think, and I get it. And Evan McPherson is prolific and a great kicker. And without him, yes, they would not be in that Super Bowl, but you got to support your team, even though you're the kicker and, you're not involved in what they're talking about offensively or defensively, making those halftime adjustments. Dude, you're a part of this team. You need to support your team. I like him, and I'm sorry that he's getting this judgment, but I think he should have stayed in that locker room.
I think a lot of people would agree with you, but you can't knock his play from this season. All right, finally today, Chris, and I'm sure this story, we'll probably talk about it a little more in depth in the coming days, but RG3 in November released a video as well as a bunch of tweets and a link to pre-order a book that he was titling Surviving Washington, where he said it was going to be a tell-all from his time there and interactions he had with everyone in that organization, and that it was going to blow things up. Well, turns out that's not happening anymore. There was going to be a writer by the name of Gary Myers. A lot of these books by athletes, they have someone else actually do
Gary's
the writing.
A great writer.
Apparently
I've had Gary on the radio. Yeah. Gary's very good.
He bailed after RG3 apparently had second thoughts, and a lot of people are believing that those second thoughts may have come at threats, or a belief that he might get threats from the Washington organization because this was going to be a tell-all, because this was going to blow things up, because this was going to have an August release date just prior to the start of the next season. RG3, if you go to his social media pages now, that video is gone. The link to the pre-order is gone, and all other tweets regarding the book have disappeared. The book no longer happening. What's your takeaway here, Chris? Because I'm kind of disappointed personally, and it does kind of seem like maybe Washington got in his ear and he decided to pull out.
You know, people sometimes lose sight of the fact that billionaires are powerful people. So Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Washington football team, apparently there was going to be damning things in that tell-all by RG3, and billionaires can do things to make you want to be quiet, and some of which are illegal, some of which might even be, and I'm not saying he did this, but it wouldn't be the first time, some of which could be life-threatening. I think it's I hope we learn more, Shannon, because my goodness, what a turnaround from a tell-all book that he was touting to all of a sudden nothing, and wash his social media from any indication that he was going to tell all in that book.
You know, maybe Washington and all of those deep pockets offered him more money than the book might ever earn him, and all he had to do for it was threaten to release a book about a 60-second video. You know, now he doesn't have to go on a book tour. Now he doesn't have to give all those stories away. But he does, I guess, still have them in his back pocket for future use. But we'll see. It's no longer happening right now. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
A great salty shakedown. And, you know, as I said, billionaires can threaten you. They can also pay you. They can also, if they want to shut you up, they can also give you a lot of money and have you sign a non-disclosure agreement. So, I mean, I don't know about any of this stuff. That could have happened. You did mention Gary Myers. He was a longtime Cowboys reporter, you know, like 20 years ago, then went on to be on HBO's Inside the NFL as an analyst, has written a lot of books, including a book or two about the Cowboys. That's why I had him on the radio a few years ago. By the way, Pablo Perez telling us on the live video feed today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Pablo Perez. We love giving out birthday shout outs, especially in the same segment that we do sports birthdays. Coming up, she was once a producer for the Mike Taylor Show. She was once a producer for my show. She has had her show, Tracksmack Radio, for years and years and years. She is Dawn Hall, also known as Dawn Bartlett Hall. We'll talk not only racing, but Dallas Cowboys with Dawn coming right up. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. I forgot my mic was on mute. The way this thing is set up, I've got to constantly in and out of segments mute. All right. Ice, baby. Give you some, since I'm stepping off camera, give you some Jeremy Kolok. Suitable for framing. You know him, you love him. You can't get enough of him. Pablo, I disagree with you. Pablo says, before the All-Star break, I was thinking Pop was going to resurrect his career. Now he's looking like Tom Landry circa 1988. Spurs, it was a crappy loss last night, but there's a lot of talent on that Spurs team. I think they have a plan. They've got 3 first-round draft picks in the upcoming draft, which they can either use for talent, and they're really good at finding talent, or they can package for a veteran. So I think there's all kinds of stuff going on. And again, and Pablo, I think Spurs fans, I think there's just a level of Spurs fans being spoiled. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a Spurs fan and I'm spoiled. It was so good for so long and unusually good for that long. And Pop is a great coach, and he is still a great coach. Tim Duncan's not walking through that door. David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker's not walking through that door. Kawhi Leonard with his head on straight is not walking through that door. Kawhi Leonard, and I hold no grudge against him. Remember, I've forgiven Kawhi Leonard, but he put this franchise back a few years with what he did. They had a plan in place. They had discovered a talent and developed that talent in Kawhi, and he was going to be the centerpiece of the next generation. Didn't work out. So, they've won 5 of their last 10. That's percentage 500. They went 4-4 on the rodeo road trip. Last night's loss was not good. They will hopefully turn things around and win at Charlotte tomorrow night, come back and beat a beatable Lakers team on Monday night, and we shall see. And if it doesn't work out, they're in a phenomenal position in the upcoming draft. So, cool. Thanks.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a football Friday, even though it's March 4th. Shannon and I reserve the right to proclaim every Friday a football Friday. We have talked a lot of football, and we'll talk even more football, but not only football. We talk NBA, we talk college hoops, we talk Major League Baseball. In fact, coming up, and we will talk with Tracksmack Dawn Hall about the Cowboys, because she is up in the Dallas area, and she is a big Dallas Cowboys fan, but she is also a huge racing fan. Of course, her website, Tracksmack Radio, so she talks a lot of NASCAR. She talks IndyCar. She talks Formula One. And like so many other sports, what's going on with regard to Russia and its invasion and bombing of Ukraine is spilling over into the racing world as well. Love having her on the show. Tracksmack Dawn Hall, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, Chris. How are you? And Shannon, how are y'all doing?
We're doing well. And, it's so weird, doing, and you and I have a long history together on the radio, both in news talk and in sports talk. But in sports talk, when you're doing a show, when there's an international event such as a war that is going on, especially when that war is spilling over into other parts of our lives, it's a weird line that you walk, because I know some people want to come to sports talk radio to get away from the bad, tragic, awful news of the day. But when it kind of spills over into sports, Dawn, as you know, over all these years, and as we know, we feel a responsibility to cover it because it's a big deal and it is affecting sports. Now, in addition to football, which you love as a Cowboys fan, obviously you love racing with your Tracksmack radio. And there's been stories this week where, the angst and the anger that people have about what Russia is doing in Ukraine is spilling over into racing. What have you seen in that regard?
Well, mentioned Formula One, and again, from the top, I want to say I am not the biggest Formula One follower, so I don't, I'm not familiar with a lot of things in it. But what I am familiar with is the Haas racing team, Gene Haas. It's the only American team in Formula One racing, and Haas is actually one of their drivers. Has been kind of controversial since he came in. His name is Nikita Mazepin, and Nikita is a guy that came in. He's what they call a pay driver. He basically bought his rides. He has sponsors and stuff that come in and pay for him instead of the company themselves paying them, if that makes sense. They pay the company for him to drive that car. When the conflict first started taking place, we saw Haas haulers and stuff, some of the sponsor labels coming off. Nikita is Russian. Nikita's father is one of the largest oligarchs in Russia and one of Vladimir Putin's buddies, I guess, for lack of a better word. Extreme amount of money. And so, excuse me, that's part of what's been controversial with him to begin with. But Formula One came out and said, we're not going to ban Russian drivers right now, or whatnot. But there's been a huge call to, especially to Gene Haas Racing and stuff, to yank him out of the car and not allow him to drive. Formula One did say they will no longer go to Russia for the Russian Grand Prix, so they have pulled that race off the schedule already. And again, a lot of the reason why they feel that he'll be pulled out of that car too is, again, he pays or has people pay, his father basically pay Gene Haas to be able to drive that car. Well, his father's assets have been frozen. So where's that money going to come from to pay for him? So they're hoping to get him out of that car here. And I say they're hoping. Fans are really hoping that he's out of that car soon. And, Chris, in a sense, I mean, I look at it both ways on the sports side. It's kind of sad for these sports stars, these Russian sports stars. They have nothing to do with this, but again, his father, he's a little different. It's a little different situation with him because of who his father is.
Well, Don, on the NASCAR side, from the idea of Russian athletes not being able to compete to owners and people of NASCAR supporting those in Ukraine, Richard Childress says he'll donate 1 million rounds of ammo to Ukraine, while Rick Hendrick is donating $200,000 for relief efforts. What can you tell us about the NASCAR side of things?
Yeah, huge. I mean, absolutely huge deal. And, Richard Childress has been a long time supporter. Well, okay, let me go back, and I'm going to probably phrase this wrong. So just kind of go with me on it. He was on the board of directors, I believe, for a while with and now I just had a brain lapse, the gun community thing. And he actually pulled himself off when all of this stuff was going down here a couple of years ago, as far as gun violence and everything. But, you know, he is an avid sportsman and hunter. And so he's got contracts through these companies. And so he is partnered with a company to donate 1 million rounds of ammo, which I think is a huge deal. I mean, right now the Ukrainians do need all that they can get.
Yeah.
So,
and Dawn, I'm wondering, you know, part of NASCAR, the fan base, and you know them well, very patriotic, a lot of American flags, you know, mom, apple pie. So much now America. It's interesting. We talked about this with Paul Alexander in the last hour. You know, Vladimir Putin doing this has not only kind of united NATO against this action by Russia, but is really kind of uniting Americans who have been divided politically. Now we pretty much, as Americans, agree, you know, Russia is horribly wrong to do this, and we are supporting Ukraine. I know it's been relatively early and you haven't seen a lot of NASCAR races in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine yet, but I mean, even driving into work this morning, Dawn and Shannon, I'm seeing billboards everywhere lighting up saying, "We stand with Ukraine, America, we stand with Ukraine." Do you believe that, Dawn, this is going to be a big thing, not only with the fan base, but, you know, maybe even drivers, maybe even things they wear, maybe even, you know, things that they put on their cars, as far as NASCAR as a fan base and as a unit, maybe making a statement of solidarity with Ukraine?
Oh, you already have. In fact, last week, there's a picture, and I'll go find the picture, Chris, and I'll tweet it out or retweet it out. I know I did before, and I'll also put it on Facebook, and I'll tag you and Shannon in it. It's a picture of Ukrainian Ukrainian NASCAR fans at last weekend's race in California, standing up against the fence line with their Ukrainian flag. And there was some newspaper reporters and stuff there that had actually talked with them and stuff. And so, I mean, you are seeing it here in Dallas. I can tell you the entire Dallas skyline downtown is the Ukrainian colors. So, and you've got coming to Dallas here on the 27th of this month, IndyCar will be here. Then you've also got I'm sorry, I'm backwards. The 20th, the IndyCar will be here in Dallas. The 27th, NASCAR will be there at Circuit of the Americas at COTA this month. So it'll be very interesting to see there at COTA, you know, the support and stuff. But you've had drivers, you know, coming out in support. Fan base. And let me tell you one quick thing, Chris, that's extremely important to watch. You know, NASCAR over the last few years, you know, we've talked about this, had really been kind of hurting with their ratings as far as at the track attendance. We are getting ready to hit our third official race of the season. It's kind of our fourth race because we had the LA Coliseum race. That was an exhibition style race at the beginning. All races so far have been sellout crowds, which is, and last week at California is huge because the West Coast is notorious for not really having large crowds, but they have been sellout. A lot of that people attribute to NASCAR's change over the last 2 to 3 years on their stance on political issues being banned. No more political speech on the tracks, no more political sponsorships on cars. The banning of the Confederate flag, the popularity now and the more exposure of Bubba Wallace and a lot of the other minority members on the teams and drivers. So, you know, there's it's just been amazing, the reaction to and new fans. These are new fans in the stands, Chris. It's not old fans coming back. These are new fans who have said, you know what, this sport is going above and beyond, wanting to embrace and show us that they want inclusion in the sport. We're going to go check it out. And you've got people that went to the LA Coliseum for that first race that turned around and bought tickets last week at Fontana in California and sold out that race. We're in Vegas this weekend, which always has a great crowd. So we'll see what happens there in Vegas.
Well, Don, we're so excited here in Austin. You mentioned new fans. NASCAR gained a ton of new fans last year when they first came to race at COTA. They're coming back later this month. What about this COTA race is so unique to NASCAR, and why does NASCAR want to keep coming back to Austin?
Well, they had not ran at COTA until last season, like you said. So the track is just a huge, huge track. It's a road course race with a lot of inclines and turns, and we're running a new engine this year. So it's very interesting to see it in a brand new car, not a new engine, a brand new car. And so a lot of the teams are kind of struggling to figure it out. And a lot of the big name teams, we see a lot of names up at the top of the leaderboard right now in points that we don't normally see in years past. And it's really leveled the playing field, which is making NASCAR extremely entertaining. You're seeing a lot of these underdog and smaller teams competing for wins. Last week, Daniel Suarez with Trackhouse Racing, the team that Pitbull is co-owner on, narrowly missed winning the race. I mean, led the race for a little bit. And it's just exciting. It's exciting to see these young drivers who just haven't had the opportunity to be in the larger teams, that have more money behind them, more sponsorship behind them. So equipment. Now we're kind of on a level playing field. The one thing at COTA last year is the rain affected the weekend. It was horrible downpours there at the track, lots of wrecks. So they're really hoping that, this year the weather will be good so that we can really get to see an entire race in its entirety on normal tires and see how it goes. But yeah, Austin turned out, the state of Texas turned out, let's face it, there at COTA. And I really am looking forward to seeing what the crowd will be like again this season.
She is Tracksmack Dawn Hall. You will remember her if you're in the San Antonio area, although, people all over Texas and across the country are fans of her radio coverage, Tracksmack Radio and tracksmackradio.com, and a longtime presence on the radio in San Antonio, here on Ticket 760 and other radio stations. Dawn, as we know, you're a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. Jeremy Kolok, our Soundscape Stylist, was commenting, looking at your Twitter. You talk a lot of Dallas Cowboys, and you have a perspective up there because you are able to see all of that media coverage of the Dallas Cowboys up close and personal. Your thoughts on the fact, so many people thought for sure that one or both of the coordinators would be gone. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, a lot of people thought not only would he be gone, but perhaps he would be a head coach somewhere else. The fact that both coordinators stayed and Mike McCarthy stayed, what are your thoughts? And do you think Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat, that if things go really bad out of the gate, that either Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, or Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, we might see a Wade Phillips moment where he gets blown out and somebody gets elevated?
Again, anything can happen. I think Mike McCarthy is a little bit different of a situation because Mike McCarthy comes with a resume with rings, or with a ring on it, So and let's face it, he took this team. I'm one of these people, Chris, we've known each other for 20 years. There's a lot of blame that, yes, I'll put on a coaching staff. But in the end, it's the guys that suit up on the field that are responsible, in my opinion, for the play. And so there's only so much a coach and a coaching staff can do. They made changes. They've done things. The team, when you look at the team on paper and look at everything, this team is built for a championship. They've got all the pieces in place. It's just a matter of, what are they going to do? This, we've said it now for a couple of years. Is this going to be the year that Dak Prescott steps up? My opinion, Chris, I love Dak. You know that. I like Dak. But do I feel Dak is a $40 million quarterback? No. I feel Dak is an okay quarterback. He's good. Is he great? Is he one of the greatest? I haven't seen that yet. And so for me, I'm more concerned with what I'm seeing out of my quarterback than what I'm seeing out of my head coach, when the potential is there and it falls in the quarterback's hands a lot of times. But when you talked about the coordinators, I mean, yeah, you've got Dan Quinn sitting right there, who I think if there's gonna be a guy that's bumped up on the roster, it's Dan Quinn, in my opinion, to head coach. And if not, then, you know, as much as the conspiracy theorists like to talk about it, you got Sean Payton out there too. So, you know, who's of course a former Dallas Cowboy coach, who a lot of fans would love to see come back to Dallas and be a head coach. So just throwing it out there, but I don't think you'll see I really don't think you'll see him make any moves during the season. I don't. I think he's all in with Mike McCarthy. And in my opinion, which is not worth a pile of beans, but in my opinion, I think Mike McCarthy has come in and done what Mike McCarthy was asked to do. Now it's on the players to respond.
She is Tracksmack Dawn Hall, a great follow on Twitter at Tracksmack Dawn. And as we mentioned, not only is there great NASCAR and racing info that Dawn is constantly covering and delivering insight and opinion on, but certainly Cowboys. She was tweeting about the Spurs last night, and her website, tracksmackradio.com. Always great stuff from Dawn. Dawn, outstanding as always. We will talk again soon. Thanks for taking the time and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. And, you know, you can follow me on iHeartRadio as well. I'm on all the major podcast platforms, so iHeart being one of them. So go look us up, Tracksmack Radio.
That's even better if we can pimp the iHeartRadio app. Way cool. Go look for her there as well. Thanks so much, Dawn. We'll talk again soon.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, Dawn Hall. And again, as Dawn mentions, the iHeartRadio app. Shannon, we can't say it enough that we have a new feature that we just rolled out this week on the iHeartRadio app, where people can instantly talk back to us. You've got a cool, easy video tutorial for anybody just learning about it. Tell us a little bit about the new feature.
Yeah, so a lot of people choose to listen to us via the iHeartRadio app because it is crystal clear. A lot of people, you know, some people like the old school, it's just the sound of radio just hits them right. But in this day and age, so many people love crystal clear sound. So you do that via the iHeartRadio app. When you're listening to Ticket 760 and AM 13 on the Zone, you'll now notice there is a little microphone button. It's red. You just tap that, and then you can record a message up to 30 seconds. You hit send, and it comes Chris and ours ways almost immediately. It'll actually show us if you send it during our show time. It'll actually show during the Chris Duel show. So we could even play it during the show or comment on it. So give it a test run and see if you like it, and, you know, comment about anything, what we're talking about, what you'd like us to talk about. If you just want to say hi, we'd love that. Give us a shout out.
And if you're mad at us, if you say, Chris, I can't believe you said that about Dak Prescott, dude. I mean, cool. We would like to hear your opinion.
Dak Preston.
Is
that me? Much. What is that?
Jeremy.
I hear that, and I'm like, is that my voice?
It was from Jeopardy, right? Like
it was I think it's from Jeopardy.
Okay. Jeopardy answer.
Like, I don't think I said that wrong, but it kind of sounds like me a little bit. No, I'm glad it's not. Preston.
Yeah, Taylor's been using Mike Taylor's been using that drop for about 3-4 years now. It's a classic. All right, coming up, Shannon, we got at least two things, but we got more. But the two things I really want to talk about, we have an poor Jackson Mahomes, the brother of Patrick Mahomes. He feels the media is really persecuting him and destroying his life as he is making his move to Los Angeles now. We'll get into the latest from the persecuted brother of Patrick Mahomes, Jackson Mahomes. And Charles Barkley last night goes off on the LA Lakers. He's not even going to say their name anymore. He is done with the Los Angeles Lakers. We will hear the words of Charles Barkley coming up. And don't forget, those Lakers coming to San Antonio Monday night. They take on the San Antonio Spurs. If the Spurs can beat Charlotte on Saturday night, and I think they can, that game against the Lakers Monday night could be for Coach Gregory Charles Popovich to get the all-time regular season record in victories. That would be way, 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 way cool at home against the Lakers. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Jeremy Kolok makes the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Forgot to unmute myself. Oh, I gotta. Let's see. Phew. Jeremy Kolok, ladies and gentlemen.
And now a message from Pucks Tissues. It's that time of year when spring's in full swing and explosions of life make allergies really sing. Each sniffle and swipe can be a moment of dread as ordinary tissues make noses angry and red. So keep Pucks by your side to soften all your blows. With air pump magic, they'll cushion your nose. Especially during allergy season, a nose in need deserves Pucks indeed.
Dig your vinyl, man. My budget doesn't. Call in time with your budget. Don't give it up. State Farm has options to give you a surprisingly great rate. Rock on. Like your good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
What's happening?
So with the 2000th consecutive
I haven't been.
About that.
I've missed a few, so I haven't been but I've been here since 2012. So I've done. This is I think my 10th year, which is crazy.
As far as first game reaction and so forth, you figure out your streak.
I don't have a streak, but I've got I've got a lot in 10 years if you add it up. So,
Yeah.
But do you know the trivia? Who was the last guy to do play-by-play for the Spurs before Bill Schoening went on his 2000 streak? If you don't, it's impossible. It's not who you think it is. I mean, it's not Jay Howard. No. Yeah. But I do remember it because it was novel, and I was in the building at the time.
Stan Smith was way before Howard.
Yeah. Okay. Jay was already gone.
Right.
Bill was on board, but his first year he was doing Texas Longhorns.
Okay,
So we had Don Harris.
Really?
Andrew Ashwood chose Don Harris of News 4.
I never would have guessed.
And he did a fine job. Yeah.
I never would have guessed.
In fact, Don tweeted out yesterday. He said, "Trivia question: can you name the last play-by-play guy to do a Spurs broadcast before Bill Schoening's streak?"
How long before you go back on?
Maybe 2 minutes.
Okay. I got story.
Okay.
Reverse racism. This is not a joke.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9766.
Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I'll take a Tom Petty tune any day of the week. By the way, I was talking off the air about rockumentaries and about, in fact, it was Jeremy's mom. Jeremy, she showed up on the live video feed and said the Eagles, because you played an Eagles song, the Eagles are her favorite band, which is a great choice. And I mentioned there's a great rockumentary on the Eagles called History of the Eagles. Now, the documentary on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is the name of that song, Running Down a Dream, which is also outstanding if you haven't seen that one. It's like a 6-hour documentary. You kind of have to watch it either in 2 or 3 chunks, unless you can really sit down and binge it for the whole 6 hours. But that also is a great rockumentary as well. Jeremy Kolok, your Soundscape Stylist. Jeremy, have you ever seen the Eagles live? Who is your favorite band? If your mom's favorite band is the Eagles, who is your favorite band?
I actually did see the Eagles live a few years ago up in Dallas, and it was incredible. It was a really cool experience, but it was I don't my favorite band. I like the early 60s and late 50s, like kind of the revolution, the introduction of rock and roll and kind of the music revolution, if you will. And there was less bands in that era, more like individual superstars. And
Sure.
I guess I don't know. I just like that era right before. I mean, right before the Beatles burst onto the scene, and we're that first band. You know what I mean?
And how old are you again to like late 50s, early 60s music?
I'm 23, but I grew
Wow.
up in Memphis.
Okay.
so,
Oh, boom.
yeah,
Okay. You had an exposure to music that a lot of us don't get.
exactly.
That is amazing. All right, Shannon, we know you love Justin Timberlake, but if you had to name a band, you got to pick a band. Who's your favorite band?
Easy, in sync.
In Sync. Okay.
Got you there.
I should have prohibited you from choosing In Sync. I'll let that. We'll do that.
I like the
Wallflowers.
Wallflowers.
You want to
If
volunteer
we're
an answer.
having like a serious answer,
Oh, nice.
Wallflowers. I just listened to a lot of them growing up, so I'm a big Wallflowers
Very
fan.
cool. Wow, I'll take that one. That's a cool, eclectic answer. Someone who most people do not think is cool, Shannon, and I don't. Jackson Mahomes going public and making a lot of noise, or at least TMZ and some other outlets picked it up yesterday. He is saying that the media is persecuting him, and the media is making his life a living hell. We've talked about Jackson Mahomes, and he's the brother of Patrick Mahomes, quarterback of the Chiefs, and Patrick's fiance and the mother of his child. Is her name Brittany Matthews?
Yes.
Well, I can't believe I remember that, but I do. I don't think there's a lot of people, probably the three of us included, Shannon and Jeremy, who feel a lot of sympathy for Jackson Mahomes. How do you feel about his feeling persecuted by the media?
Well, if it isn't the consequences of our actions. No one knew who you were, bro, until you blew yourself up on the Instagram and the TikToks using your brother's clout. And then you continued to post and talk about your haters in your posts. And you were fueling their fire, and it seemed like they were fueling yours. You made this yourself, and now you're lying in this bed. And I just tried to look at his social media, because what sparked this story was that he posted, I think it was to his Instagram story, a selfie, and then on it he said, the media is destroying my life, trying to get people to feel bad for him. And I went and checked his Twitter, and 2 days ago he tweeted that he's moving to LA. Okay, if you are tired of the media, if you are tired of being scrutinized, if you are tired of being the center of attention for all the wrong, that is the last place you want to go to. You're in Kansas City. Stay there. What did Patrick Mahomes say? You can't come to his games anymore? Is that why you're leaving? I mean, he'll probably still fly you out on the PJ from time to time. Maybe that's why he's going to he's doing everything bad. He's like, I don't understand why this is happening to me. Has he not looked in the mirror? Is the only mirror he sees the selfie from his camera phone? I can't.
Well, and I saw when he did that post, and he said, I am leaving for LA, or I'm moving to LA. I saw a couple of people post from LA. They said, hey man, when you get to LA, be sure to wear your red Chiefs jersey and go see. There's a lot of Chiefs fans in South Central LA. So wear your red Chiefs jersey and what they were alluding to, you've got the gang war there between the Crips and the Bloods.
Oh my gosh.
I may have my colors wrong, but I think if you're a Crip, and I may have this wrong because I'm not a gangbanger, but I used to know this when I lived in LA. I think the Crips wear red. No, the Bloods are red. It's blood red. I think the Bloods wear red and the Crips wear blue. So if he went into the wrong neighborhood wearing his red Patrick Mahomes jersey, he'd get A, his butt kicked, and B, maybe killed by one of the gangs in LA. So, but there were people encouraging him to go into South Central LA with his red Kansas City Chiefs jerseys. People want to see, and I hate to laugh, but people want to see him die. That's how much they dislike Jackson Mahomes. So that. Yeah, I was listening before we came on the air, Shannon. I heard Brady Quinn talking about this on the Two Bros and a Cup of Joe national show. And the point he made was, if your only claim to fame is your brother is a superstar and you've done absolutely nothing with your life but dance on TikTok videos and try to be a social media star, and with your fame, you do nothing. Jackson Mahomes, we talked about earlier, we talked about the quarterback from Liberty at the combine helping a homeless person on the street. There, to my knowledge, there is no indication that Jackson Mahomes helps anyone. In fact, I saw a thing yesterday when I was clicking on all this because he was trending. Apparently there was some food company that makes snacks, and Jackson Mahomes like tweeted at them saying, "Hey man, send me some snacks from your company, and I will promote them on my social media." And apparently they sent him a lot of these snacks. Jackson Mahomes apparently ate all the snacks and then said nothing about them on social media. He asked for free grub and said, "I'll promote you," got the free grub, ate it, and did nothing. So, I mean, I don't think there's a lot to like about this cat.
Yeah. And again, these are all the consequences of his own actions. So I don't understand how he does not realize that is what is going on right now. And he needs to also understand his brother will not play football forever. His brother may continue to be famous and noteworthy as he is because of what he's accomplished and what he might accomplish in the future. But once he is no longer on the field and no longer providing you access to do your little videos during the game from the field and from the suites and go to all of these different events that he's constantly invited to, what you gonna do then, buddy? What you gonna do then?
In other words, Jackson, you're gonna need to get a job at some point. I do want to get to this audio. Somebody who does have a job and we just love him because we love his takes. That would be one Charles Barkley. Last night on TNT, the Lakers get blown out by the Clippers. The Clippers did not have Kawhi Leonard, as we know. Clippers were without a lot of their key players. A lot of people thought the Lakers would win that game. Clippers blew out the Lakers 132-111. And on TNT, Charles Barkley made some statements against the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's listen.
Coming up, it's Inside the NBA presented by Kia. Got some good stories tonight.
What's wrong with
the return of Kevin Durant tonight.
Man, we're not showing these guys anymore.
We have the return.
I'm making an executive decision around here. We're not showing them bombs from Southern California anymore. We stopped it. Nope, they were balling. Okay, come on, man. We got to stop showing that team.
The Lakers. Chuck, who's playing in this game? The Clippers and
the team from Southern California.
Oh, you won't say that name? You still not
I'm not talking about.
Is there a point at which you said, "Okay, I'm going to say their name"?
If they win a playoff game.
So you're not going to say the word Lakers for the rest of the
season. I'm not talking about these damn losers. Between us, between the nitwits of TNT and the nitwits with ESPN, we talk about these losers more than any people in the world.
I would say we talked about them a lot.
Charles Barkley, Shannon, keeps it real. As of last night, he will not say Lakers again until they win a playoff game. He's calling them losers and the team from Southern California, and he is making an edict that TNT cannot air any more Lakers telecasts. I don't know how much clout he is, Sir Charles, but he says no more Laker games on TNT or ESPN, and he will not say their name again because they're not the real Lakers like they used to be.
He does have a lot of clout. They're not going to pull the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers still get all the viewers, and they may even have more viewers now that they're losing because people will want to turn them on to see the frustration that's very evident on the court for them and on the bench for them. So I don't think he'll get his wish for that, but maybe he will get his wish that they don't talk about them nearly as much, which will make it easier for them to not slip up and to actually say the Lakers, as he continues to say that team from Southern California.
And clearly, LeBron James pays a lot of attention to the media. If Charles Barkley is dogging the Lakers, won't say their name, and is calling them the losers, LeBron cannot be too pleased with this latest development that's making a lot of noise now ever since Charles said these things last night.
Does LeBron care anymore? Like at this point, does he care? He's got his rings.
I think so.
I just... like, what part of his legacy is he working on now? I mean, people still respect him. They're not blaming him for the Lakers' current struggles. Russell Westbrook has that covered. Frank Vogel, they've got that covered.
Yeah. And LeBron, you look at his numbers this year, this is not LeBron's fault. Good point. Now, he kind of helped orchestrate, get a lot of the young people out of LA and bring in some of these veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So, he could have been, I guess you could blame him for that. But, and again, the biggest thing we heard from LeBron the last couple of weeks is he wants to play with his son, Bronny, anywhere in the league once Bronny comes into the league. So there is that. A couple of other things, if we have time to get to them, Shannon, the NFL suspending COVID protocols. I got to believe Kirk Cousins and Cole Beasley and some others are got to be happy about this. How do you feel about this story?
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring those names up. I haven't checked their socials to see if they've had any sort of response. I mean, it's great. Numbers are decreasing across the country and more so in some areas. And so for the NFL to have good faith in their players and the organizations, hey, we're not going to be testing anymore. We're not going to be, enforcing these rules in the way we have been. I think it's great. And hopefully that's a trend we'll continue to see across the country and not for this whole like mask versus anti-mask, but just knowing that this isn't a threat to our world in the way it has been for what feels like for so long now.
Yeah. Let's keep an eye on things. It's certainly still a danger. Finally, we didn't get to this, but I know Jon Rahm is one of your favorite golfers, or at least he was a year ago during match play. Jon Rahm making news in the world of golf, but maybe not for the right reason.
Yeah, Jon Rahm, a popular pick for me last season when we would pick majors with our golfers, and he's the world number one. He's hard not to pick, but yesterday he was trending because he is currently playing at the Arnold Palmer Invitation. He had a 10-inch putt to sink one, and I watched it so many times. I can't tell if maybe he just read the greens wrong, so that's why he barely tapped it, but he didn't make it, and it didn't even move much closer. I mean, the ball maybe moved 3 inches when he did that hit. I mean, he doesn't know what happened either. It's just, but I guess in a game like that, you for as great as they are, every now and then you're going to get one of those, and unfortunately, it happened on national television for one world number one, Jon Rahm.
And I think, Shannon, that gives us hope, the rest of us who are not world number ones. When Jon Rahm can miss a 10-inch putt, and when that, and not only in golf, but in everything we do in life,
yeah.
when we can really screw something up for a moment, I think that gives the rest of us hope.
He's normal. He's just like the rest of us. Now when people say I can golf just like Jon Rahm, they'll point to that. And I can.
True. Now, when is Dell match play? Do you know off the top of your head or no?
The weekend of March 24th. Same weekend as NASCAR.
In like 20 days.
Yeah, I've got my credential already.
I think that beautiful. And then the next week is the Valero Texas Open, I think.
I do believe so.
As you mentioned last year, you and I and Andy Everett drafted golfers in some of these big tournaments. We need to bring that back, and we need to get Jeremy Kolok perhaps involved. So maybe beginning with Dell match play, we might have to draft some golfers, have a little friendly competition.
Yeah. I don't know how Dell match play works score-wise for us with the group play, but we'll figure it out. We can do that.
Yeah, that'll be weird, but we'll figure something out. A great week, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Have yourself a great weekend.
You too.
We'll reconvene on Monday morning.
Hook 'em and go Verde.
Jeremy Kolok. Woo! Absolutely. Yes. Jeremy, thanks for everything. Are you back on Monday? We have no idea.
I don't know, but probably.
We don't even know. Yeah. Scott Manziera may be back by Monday. We never know who's going to be our Soundscape stylist. Have yourself a great, great weekend. Be safe, and we will see you on Monday. Adios, amigos. Thank you, Louisa. Louisa, Frank, Gail. Thank you, Gail. Give you some Jeremy there on the way out, because I think you know who he is. Gail, go find History of the Eagles, and if you can't find it, it used to be on Netflix. Not sure it is anymore. If it's not, I'll try to track down my DVD and get that to you through Jeremy. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Go Spurs, go. Till next time.